Donald Trump is losing his mind on Mother's Day Sunday. Of course, no messages from Donald Trump on Sunday about Mother's Day. Instead, he's posting photos of the reflecting pool with some weird AI, and it has this weird blue glow to it. He's posting videos of Iran from early January for reasons that are unclear. He's posting videos of Israel's foreign minister praising him. He also gave an interview that was posted this morning from some far right-wing media entity that I never heard of, where Donald Trump didn't even remember that he and Elon Musk were talking about exposing all of the gold in Fort Knox and returning into the people. And he's like, I don't remember that. What's the whole Fort Knox thing that I said? Donald Trump also says that babies get these massive vats of vaccines exploded into them. I don't even know what the heck this guy is talking about. And then he's bragging that he said, I stopped 8 to 10 wars. The economy's never been better. Donald Trump has also sent his stooges out to the various corporate news networks this morning to do the morning shows. And they're all out there saying, we expect right around the corner for there to be 6% GDP growth. Everything's going to be amazing. And if it isn't amazing, it's going to be the fault of the blue states. They're going to be the ones to blame for it. And the only reason why former President Biden created all of these jobs is because the illegal aliens got all of the jobs. So there wasn't really a manufacturing boom. It was all the illegal aliens. It's just lie after lie. Oh, and then Sebastian Gorka, this far right-wing extremist, in my opinion, he gave an interview and he said, so why haven't the Iranians responded or surrendered or backed down? And Gorka, who's one of Donald Trump's top people, dealing with international affairs, which is absolutely horrifying. He goes, the reason is because we've just been too effective in the war. We've been too successful. And because we're so successful, Iran doesn't even know who their leadership is. And is this person the leader? Is that person the leader? So it takes them really long for them to get back to us. I mean, it's just lie after lie while the American people are suffering on this catastrophic Sunday. Thankfully, it is Mother's Day where we get to spend time with our families and reflect on the backbone of our families, our mothers. Happy Mother's Day to all. But you just see the behavior of this sick and disgusting regime. Let's just go through it one by one, and I'll show you what the Iranians are posting this morning. Then I'll show you the Trump regime's responses. So one of Iran's top leaders, the spokesperson for their National Security and Foreign Policy Commission in the parliament, spokesperson for one of their top leaders, posted the following message. As of today, our restraint is over. Any aggression against our vessels will be met with a heavy and decisive Iranian response against American vessels and bases. The clock is ticking against the Americans' interest. It is to their benefit not to act foolishly and sink themselves deeper into the quagmire they have fallen into. The best course is to surrender and concede concessions. You must get used to this new regional order. Also, the Iranian army told their Tasnim news agency, that's their state-run agency, if the enemy attacks Iran again, it will face new and more advanced equipment, new methods of warfare, and most importantly, new arenas of war. This means that the war will enter the areas that the enemy has not anticipated or included in its plans. If you've been watching the MeidasTouch network, you know that we think we know what they're hinting at. The cables underneath the Strait of Hormuz, they're just going to cut it and they're going to destroy it. And that will basically bring down the data centers and internet in the Middle East, which connects to a broader grid of internet throughout the world. And then you have the ambassador from Iran to Pakistan, who actually tends to be a very kind of tempered, even-keeled guy who's really been pushing for diplomacy. He responded to Donald Trump's social media post where Trump does these AI images of himself watching as Iranian boats are destroyed, like a delusional fantasy of Donald Trump. And his name is Reza Amiri Magdam. And here's what he posts. A trigger-happy bravado with brinksmanship approach and a ballyhoo and hula-baloo in the ivory tower of hallucinatory charlatanism bears nothing than tension and escalation. This is not the way diplomacy works, and the president of Iran, Masoud Pezeshkian, who, by the way, is a world-renowned cardiologist. I mean, he's a surgeon, and just an interesting fact about him. He writes, "We will never bow our heads before the enemy, and if talk of dialogue or negotiations arises, it does not mean surrender or retreat. Rather, the goal is to uphold the rights of the Iranian nation and to defend national interests with resolute strength." So that's what they're saying. On the other hand, what is Donald Trump saying? Well, Donald Trump posted this right-wing media interview. And in this interview, the person says, "So what happened to your audit of Fort Knox? Didn't you and Elon Musk say you were going to hand out all this gold to people in addition to Doge dividend checks?" Watch Donald Trump's response here. Let's play this clip.
What happened to the audit of Fort Knox?
Which one are you talking about?
There was, I think when you first got into office, you and Elon Musk talked about auditing the
gold.
Well,
we wanted to go knock on the door, Fort Knox, very thick door, and to see whether or not we have any gold in there, because we'll take a look at it. It's a very interesting question, yeah. We played with that. I wonder if they left the gold in Fort Knox, because they steal a lot.
No need to really do that, though?
Well, I don't know. I think it's, I do want to go to Fort Knox sometime. I want to see if the gold is there, which I'm sure it will be.
Yeah, the guy is a massive con artist. More from that interview, because I showed you what the Iranians are doing this morning. What's Donald Trump doing? He's talking about little babies, and it's so damn creepy. Here's what Donald Trump says. Let's play it.
But I look at these beautiful little babies, and they get a vat, I mean, so like a big glass of stuff pumped into their bodies, and I think it's a very negative thing to do, and I would like to see it. I'm not doing this in terms of Bobby or not. I hope they agree with that, but that's just my opinion. I would love to see much smaller shots, like 4 visits to the doctor, and I think you would have a much better result with the autism.
And then Donald Trump is bragging about stopping 8 wars. He said, "I stopped 8 wars, and the economy has never been booming more than it is booming right now. Everybody is thriving." Here's what he has to say. Let's play it.
But I ended 8 wars, and to a point where the woman, a very good woman too, Maria, she received the Nobel Peace Prize, and she said, "I received it. The only one that should get it is Donald Trump." I didn't know her. Then it was very nice, very gracious, actually. But I ended, think of it, I ended 8 wars, and we have the greatest economy we've ever had. Just as I'm walking into the room, I see the S&P hit a brand new high during a so-called war. I call it a military conflict because it was pretty easy. We have the greatest military in the world. You look at Venezuela, you look at Iran, look at what we wiped out their navy in 1 week. 159 ships at the bottom of the sea. We wiped out their air force. We wiped out their everything. We wiped out their leaders, I guess, maybe most importantly. But we have the greatest military anywhere in the world, and I think you see that.
And then Donald Trump sends out his sycophants on the various morning shows. And for example, you hear from Kevin Hassett, Donald Trump's national economic advisor. And this guy's been wrong about everything his whole life. And he goes, right around the corner, I think we're going to hit 6% GDP growth. 6% GDP. The fourth quarter of last year's GDP growth was only about 0.5%. But sure, go and keep on lying. Here, play this clip.
The election.
So what kind of economic growth number would you expect for 26 and beyond then? Let's assume that we do get out of this war fairly soon. What kind of GDP growth number would you expect for the U.S. economy?
Yeah, and that's the thing that we've been working a lot on lately because of the capital spending boom. Remember that in March, Capital spending went up by 3.3%, not at an annual rate. So multiply that by 12, and you're looking at historic capital spending numbers because President Trump, with his tax cuts, which are in getting people to expense, but also onshoring activity, is giving us a capital spending boom unlike anything we've ever seen. If you look at how fast the capital stock is growing, that's sort of like how much stuff that we make stuff with. It's between 5 and 8% right now. If you divide that by 3, that's about how much GDP growth you get out of just capital spending. We've got productivity growth at 2.5. I think we really could be looking at numbers north of 4, north of 5, north of even 6, because there's so much capital stock growth right now. Remember that the 2% number that you saw for GDP growth, the reason why it was 2% and not 4 or 5% was that we imported a record number of capital goods because we're building all these factories. Once we turn those factories on, you're going to see really growth unlike anything we've seen before.
Are you expecting?
And the thing with the Trump regime is that it's lie after lie after lie. And it's why it's so important that we have a healthy and accurate media diet today. And that's why here at the MeidasTouch Network, the way we do our research is by using ground news. And I'll just give you an example of how I've used ground news in my research today. So I was looking at AOC's talk that she gave at the University of Chicago. And one of the things I noticed was the way the right wing was trying to cover it. And in fact, even the Washington Post was pushing these narratives about how it's so bad that AOC's taking on the billionaires and how it's not a good message. And, just pushing this message in the right wing. So one of the things that AOC said is that the American Revolution was against the billionaires of their times, the royalty, the kings, no kings. We were started on a no kings basis. Now, this made right-wing media livid, and they covered this like, oh my, you're saying the revolution was against the billionaires? The billionaires were the good guys in the revolution. Look at all the billionaires. I mean, this is what the right wing is pushing. 100% of the coverage of that came from right-wing media basically attacking AOC for a second. And by the way, from the Washington Post. And so I wanted to know who's covering this type of story. So one of the reasons I partner with Ground News is because it's the best way for me to stay objective with my reporting. So Ground News is an app and a website that pulls in thousands of articles from around the world, and it organizes them by story to show you what's the left covering, center, and right. How are they framing stories differently? For every story, the color-coded layout makes it easy to see the political bias of each source. I can filter for high factuality sources and see which sources are independently owned or owned by large media conglomerates with corporate interests. This lets you compare reporting on the same issue in one place, so you can come to your own conclusion based on all of the facts. So in this article, for example, it was all right-wing. So if you only read right-wing, you would have one perspective. And if you were watching or listening to left-wing or center media, you would have no clue that they're attacking her for saying that the billionaires were, in the revolution, it was against the billionaires of their time. So Ground News has a dedicated blind spot feed, which is a personal favorite of mine, which highlights stories being disproportionately covered on either side of the political aisle to help you burst through your political echo chambers. Because I love Ground News so much, we're offering you 40% off the same Vantage plan that I use for my research. Just go click the link in the description or go to ground.news/MTN or scan the QR code up here. It's one of the biggest discounts they've ever offered. If you want to support the channel to get a clearer understanding of the world, try out Ground News. Now let's get back to our reporting right here. So then you have Kristen Welker questioning Chris Wright, Donald Trump's energy secretary, who's one of the main spokespersons for the Trump regime on Trump's catastrophic and unlawful war. And here's what he says when Welker says, did the U.S. back away from Project Freedom because of the risk of further escalation from Iran? Is Donald Trump afraid of those Iranian fast boats, Chris Wright? Watch his response right here. Let's play it.
From Iran. Did the U.S. back away from Project Freedom because of risks of further military action?
The U.S. backed away or just suspended briefly Project Freedom because of Iran's concerns. Iran has one card. They can cause trouble in the Straits of Hormuz. They are keen to get a negotiated deal. If we open that militarily without Iran, they have no cards left. They can cause trouble in the meantime. They said, wait, let's talk. Let's get a deal. We're going to open this more quickly in a simpler fashion.
And then Chris Wright goes and gives the same answer of, well, the reason that we're being ghosted by Iran is that they're just so confused who their leadership is, and that's the problem. Here, play this clip.
Want to start on these negotiations between the United States and Iran. President Trump saying that the United States was anticipating a response from Iran to its latest proposal. Has Iran, in fact, responded to the United States?
I don't think we've heard a clear resolution from Iran yet. Given the state of the government in Iran, things just move slowly. Communications are difficult. There are multiple factions. This is a regime under serious stress.
Would the United States ever agree?
When the Trump regime is going after Iran like this, it's all more it's just projection and confession. We don't know what the hell the Trump regime's policy is because there isn't any. Donald Trump just wakes up one day and he says this, then he says that, then he says this, then he says that. It is a constant seesawing market manipulation. And then what was last night's Barack Ravi drop, his Axios drop? A super secret mediation is taking place in Miami between Donald Trump's Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, and the Emir of Qatar, the Al Thani family themselves. They're in Miami, and this may lead to another deal. Look, Iran knows who their leadership is. If you know about Iran, they have this kind of decentralized mosaic structure, and their leadership is in different areas. There's civilian areas, there's Iranian Revolutionary Guard areas, there's kind of their local policing areas, and at the top of it, you have your spiritual leader areas, which is basically the final word in Iran, which is Ayatollah Mojtaba Khomeini, and we know that he's alive and he's directing a lot of this, even though a lot of American propaganda said he wasn't. But we know the foreign minister Araghchi, we know Ghalibaf in the parliament. I show you the videos of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps. They coordinate their plans, and it's done actually in a very deliberate and organized and not chaotic way. Whereas on any given day, Donald Trump will take his motorcade, drive it right through the reflecting pool, and then starts, asking the workers, who, by the way, work for a company that got a no-bid contract because it's Donald Trump's pool guy painting the thing blue. What should I do? What do you think I should do in the war? That's beyond insane. And that's what's going on before our very eyes. Going back to Donald Trump's horrific interview that he gave, there's one other part I wanted to show you that I thought, do you still donate your salary? And who is it going to? Watch Donald Trump's ridiculous response right here. Let's play this clip.
Do you still donate your salary? And if so, who's it going to?
I do. Much of it goes to the White House preservation. I fix things up. You might have seen the path outside. Did you see it?
I know about it. I have not personally walked on it.
I'll let you take a look at it later. It's beautiful, beautiful black granite. It was stone that was all broken and terrible shape. The White House was not properly maintained. You think a guy like Joe Biden would maintain it? He didn't know he was alive, but I do. I'm very good. I was a great real estate developer, and I can fix things and make them look beautiful, pay for it myself.
And then it's more con job by Kevin Hassett. And Kevin Hassett's asked, well, in terms of the price of oil, this has to mean higher costs to consumers. And then he's like, well, in the short run, but in the long run, this will all be great. Short-term pain, long-term gain. This is going to be great for everybody. Here, let's play this clip.
So on. And so for sure, in the aggregate, we're looking at 4% economic growth because of all the productivity from AI, all the capital spending and so on. But the drag on the economy is that the blue states are actually hemorrhaging jobs. And so if we disappoint at all, it'll be because of like what happens to New York State, what happens to California, because of these misguided policies.
Well, as Maria always says, money is mobile.
And then you have Kevin Hassett blaming the blue states for the GDP. Let's play it. And here's what Kevin Hassett had to say about job creation is all from illegal aliens. That's why the job creation was the way it was. Here, let's play this clip.
Right to work. And we we did an analysis when we first got into the White House that showed that almost all of the job creation that happened under President Biden was the employment of illegal aliens. And so by securing the border, by reinforcing immigration law, there were some that said that we wouldn't have enough workers to grow the economy. You can remember that. But in fact, what has happened is great high-paying jobs have been going to American citizens, which is really what the intent of President Trump's policy was.
And finally, over here from this interview with Chris Wright, it's pretty apparent that gas prices ain't going down anytime soon. Here, let's watch what he says. Let's play it.
We're going to end the nuclear program.
But gas prices have not peaked at this point.
I don't know the future of gas prices.
Well, they climbed over the past week. We're also hearing from the airline lobby. Ticket prices aren't going to go down in the summer or the fall. Saudi Aramco's CEO said reopening routes is not the same as normalizing a market deprived of 1 billion barrels of oil. None of these problems are going to end quickly.
Ending the Iran nuclear program is a tough challenge, as you're rightfully pointing out. Is there short-term dislocation from that? Absolutely. But we need to make that trade-off, or we have a long-term threat to peace in the region, long-term threat to energy supplies, long-term threat to Americans.